Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. At UFC 273, we finally got the much anticipated welterweight matchup between Khamzat Chimaev and Gilbert Burns, and what an amazing fight it was. What a competitive fight it was. And I've seen a lot of people saying after this fight that Khamzat Chimaev was exposed by Gilbert Burns at UFC 273. So I wanted to make a video and talk about that, whether or not he was exposed by Gilbert Burns, my assessment of his skill set after his win over Gilbert Burns, the decision, whether or not I agree with it, which I've talked about more in depth in my UFC 273 post-fight. I'll link that down and below. But guys, I do videos like this all the time, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any. But also, towards the end of the video, I'm going to talk about who I think Khamzat Chimaev fights next, and I feel like I have a pretty good idea about who the UFC matches him up with next. So first off, I wanted to make this video because I've noticed there's two main groups of people that I notice most in the MMA community when it comes to talking about Khamzat Chimaev. And one are the Khamzat Chimaev haters who just hate him no matter what. He's all hype, he's terrible. Then there's the Khamzat Chimaev cult-like following who claim he's going to be a 3-division champion, a 4-division champion, which I think these people, both sets of people, are disconnected from reality. And I want it to be one of those people who are in the middle. I want to give a fair assessment of Khamzat Chimaev's skills. I'm going to kind of compare it to my previous assessment of Khamzat Chimaev's skills. And I'm going to tell you guys, he faced some adversity in this fight. I don't know if that necessarily means he got exposed. But first off, this fight was just an incredible back and forth fight. The first round, Khamzat Chimaev hurt Gilbert Burns badly, dropped him, looked like he was going to get close to a finish. And Gilbert Burns survives. He goes bloody into the second round, and he wins the second round, no doubt. Landed some good hard shots on Khamzat. I believe he dropped him. I don't know if it was technically counted as a drop because Khamzat kind of landed on one of his hands, posted up, and then got back to his feet. But round two was undoubtedly Gilbert Burns' round, and round one was undoubtedly Khamzat Chimaev's round. Now, round three was very close and very competitive, but I gave it to Khamzat Chimaev. But I don't think it's egregious to say that you thought Gilbert Burns took that third round. I think it was very close. Both guys did a decent amount of damage in that third round, but I gave it to Khamzat Chimaev. I think he won it. I think he landed the better shots, the more damaging shots, and I think he won the fight 29-28. So as far as people claiming that Khamzat Chimaev was exposed, there is one main thing that I've seen the majority of these people say, and they question his cardio. And for me, going into this fight, I wondered about his cardio because we never seen him go past the second round in the UFC or even in his career at all, I don't believe. And I think that assessment, people saying he doesn't have any cardio, I just don't think it adds up. It doesn't make sense to me because we see fights like this with such a high output. This was a crazy back and forth fight where both guys were throwing a lot of volume. Is that Gilbert Burns was tired in the third round as well. Does he not have cardio? He's gone hard 5 rounds before. So I think the people, even a fight I want to, kind of go back to, Rafael Fiziev versus Bobby Green. People question Rafael Fiziev's cardio in that fight, but it was a crazy output. And in this fight, yes, Khamzat Chimaev was tired in the third round. So was Gilbert Burns. But the output was so high for that fight. I'm actually very impressed with Khamzat Chimaev's coming out of this fight. I think he looked so good, and he fought against the elite of the elite. Now, going into this fight, I thought Khamzat Chimaev would win. I thought Gilbert Burns had a legitimate chance at winning, but my assessment going into the fight, I just thought Khamzat Chimaev was a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, and had a little bit better wrestling, and I thought he'd be able to take Gilbert Burns down and control him on the ground and maybe finish him via ground and pound. Now, obviously, that was not the case, but as far as what I saw in this fight from Khamzat Chimaev, I think because I wasn't one of these cult-like following Khamzat Chimaev followers, I was so impressed because I know a lot of people going into this fight were saying, oh, Khamzat's going to wreck him in the first round. I actually made a video saying I thought this fight was a #1 contender fight for the welterweight division, and that it should be 5 rounds because of that. We've done 5-round fights for Nate Diaz, Leon Edwards, Nick Diaz, Robbie Lawler. Why not make Khamzat Chimaev versus Gilbert Burns 5 rounds, considering it's probably a #1 contender fight? And people say, oh, Khamzat Chimaev is going to finish him in the first round. Now, I thought Khamzat Chimaev would win this fight. I thought he would finish Gilbert Burns, but I still thought that Gilbert Burns is so good. He's so elite. He's been at the top of the division for a while now. I thought that he had a legitimate chance to beat Khamzat Chimaev. And after watching this fight, I am more impressed with Khamzat Chimaev coming out of this fight than I would have been had Khamzat brutally KO'd Gilbert Burns in the first round. And the reason I say that, and the reason I was so happy that this fight went long, is because we got so many questions answered. So first off, the question of Khamzat Chimaev's cardio. I think it's answered. For me, he has great cardio. The output in that fight was absolutely insane, and it's not like he was dying in the third round. He was tired, he slowed down a bit, but who wouldn't after that crazy output? Then I had the question about Khamzat Chimaev's chin. He took heavy power shots from Gilbert Burns, and was he hurt a couple times? Was he stung a couple times? Yes, but he ate massive shots. Then you look at just his overall striking ability, which we haven't seen a lot of in the UFC. You go to his first fight, John Phillips took him down, beat him up, and submitted him. Second fight, Reese McKee took him down, beat him up. Third fight, Gerald Meerschaert, one-punch KO in the beginning of the first round. Fourth fight, Li Jingliang takes him down immediately, beats him up, and then submits him. We didn't have a lot of information about Khamzat Chimaev's striking ability against legit guys, especially against elite world-class guys in Gilbert Burns, considering this was his first real big test, in MMA in general. And it's crazy. He's only 11-0. He went out there. He was able to strike with Gilbert Burns. At points, he was able to outstrike Gilbert Burns. And then also, sometimes we see these undefeated guys come up and never get touched or never face adversity of any significant amount. And in this fight, we saw Khamzat Chimaev face adversity. We saw him, and we've seen this with plenty of guys before, where they come out, it looks like they're going to get a win, and then they don't get the finish, and they just fade, and then they end up losing, later in the fight. He went out there, he almost finished Gilbert Burns in the first round. Then he faces adversity in the second round. He loses the second round, gets clipped badly in the second round, eats a lot of damage in the second round. This is the first time in his MMA career he's been busted up. He comes back in the third round and wins the fight. That is insane to me. So now we have the question answered. What happens when Khamzat Chimaev faces adversity? And he's never faced it before. So we have that question answered. His striking ability looked phenomenal against Gilbert Burns. I know that he is hittable. Gilbert Burns was able to hit him. And I think that this fight, even though I do not believe, to answer the question, I do not believe that Khamzat Chimaev was exposed in this fight, because I think people use the term exposed as basically people were way higher on this guy's skill set, and it turns out he wasn't that good at all. And I think there is some people, obviously there's the group of people who are way too high on Khamzat Chimaev, but I believe that he lived up to most people's expectations in this fight as far as being an elite level fighter. Like, maybe he didn't go out there and KO him in the first round, but most people assume that Khamzat Chimaev could hang with the elite of the elite, myself included. That's very rare for me to see a fighter relatively unproven, hasn't fought the best competition, to pick him against a guy who has fought elite level competition, has defeated elite level competition, and we know a lot about his skill set against very legit guys. It's very rare for me, and I feel like a lot of people looked at Khamzat Chimaev and they thought he was an elite level fighter, and we just hadn't seen him tested against another elite level fighter. So he went out there, he proved that he belongs with the top 5 of welterweight, which is just insane to me. For 5 fights in the UFC, he is now on the verge of a title shot. And that brings me into what is next for Khamzat Chimaev. I believe that Khamzat Chimaev has 2 options next. It depends how the welterweight division plays out. It depends if the UFC wants to skip over Leon Edwards. So I think the UFC could potentially throw Khamzat Chimaev right into a title shot against Kamaru Usman. Khamzat Chimaev is undoubtedly the biggest fight in the welterweight division right now for anybody. I mean, he just beat the number 2 guy. He's on a 5-fight win streak in the UFC, even though some of those other wins aren't great. But you look at the Li Jingliang win, and then you look at the Gilbert Burns win, there's a case to be made that Khamzat Chimaev is the number 1 contender. And you look at Leon Edwards, I know he's on that long win streak. I know, a lot of bad luck. He's supposed to fight Tyron Woodley. He accepted 3 fights with Khamzat Chimaev. He accepted the fight with Jorge Masvidal. But you look at that win streak. He's coming off a win over Nate Diaz, a no contest over Bilal Muhammad. It's not that great. It's not that great. And the UFC could easily say, you know what, Leon? Go fight one more time. Go fight the winner of Luque versus Bilal. We're giving Khamzat Chimaev a title shot. So the next option is maybe the UFC does make Usman versus Edwards. They say, you know what? We promised Edwards his title shot. We're going to give it to him. And Khamzat Chimaev, he took some damage in the Gilbert Burns fight. Maybe he sits around, he recovers, and he fights the winner of that. Maybe towards the end of 2022. But I don't know. Khamzat Chimaev is a guy that likes to stay active. So I think he's going to want to fight again, at least one more time this year, if not 2 more times this year. So I don't know if he's going to want to sit around and wait till November, December to maybe get that fight in. There could be a potential for an injury, a pullout of his opponent. I think he's going to want to fight maybe summer, fall of this year, and then maybe the end of the year. So I think the only other option has to be Khamzat Chimaev versus Colby Covington. And I think this fight makes sense on so many levels. Colby Covington had 2 close fights with Kamaru Usman, but he lost both of those fights. What's going to get him back to a 3rd title fight against Kamaru Usman if Kamaru Usman does stay the champion? I think a win over Khamzat Chimaev would do it. To be honest, Khamzat Chimaev has so much hype. People are so high on his skill set. He looked very good. And I know there's some people, saying he looked terrible against Burns and saying that his cardio looked bad and, he got hit so many times. He looked good against the number 2 ranked guy in the welterweight division. If he goes out there now with he has more hype than ever after beating Gilbert Burns. He goes out there, he fights Colby Covington, and somehow, and it's very possible, Colby Covington is an elite world-class guy, has a very particular skill set, good volume, amazing cardio, great wrestling skills, a recipe for a very interesting matchup against Khamzat Chimaev. And if Colby Covington can go out there and defeat Khamzat Chimaev, I think people will be clamoring to see him fight Usman or maybe even potentially Leon Edwards if Leon Edwards is able to defeat Kamaru Usman, which would just be insane. And even then, there's so many different matchups you can make out of those 4 guys. Hypothetically, if Leon Edwards defeats Kamaru Usman over the summer and then maybe Khamzat sits out and waits, we could finally get that Leon Edwards-Khamzat Chimaev matchup. But I think, the UFC should probably make Khamzat versus Colby. I mean, if Khamzat beats Colby, if he back-to-back wins Gilbert Burns and then Colby Covington, there's no denying that this man has earned a title shot. I think the case is already there that he's earned a title shot just with a win over Gilbert Burns and Li Jingliang. So I just really think that Khamzat Chimaev has unlimited options. He could also fight the winner of Vicente Luque versus Bilal Muhammad. I don't think that's the case. I think the UFC will go with the title shot against the winner of Leon Edwards, Kamaru Usman, potentially even skip over Leon Edwards and just give him Kamaru Usman, or it's going to be the Colby Covington fight. I think he'll probably fight next in Abu Dhabi. I forget which month, September or October. I think they're doing a big pay-per-view in Abu Dhabi. I think that's when Khamzat Chimaev will return. I think that's when his next fight will be. Whoever's ready or whatever makes sense timeline-wise with Usman, Edwards, or Colby, I think that's who it will be. And I cannot wait. There's been very few guys who come into the UFC and so quickly make a massive impact and their name gets so much recognition that they're able to kind of jump up the rankings the way Khamzat Chimaev has. And I'm super excited to see what the future holds. And now, I was a little bit doubtful before. I was very high on Khamzat Chimaev's skills, but I still had questions. After that Gilbert Burns fight, a lot of those questions were answered. And also, Khamzat Chimaev is still so young. What can he learn from that Gilbert Burns fight, And, in the next couple years, imagine how much better he can get, as he continues to train. Each training camp, he's going to get better. I can't wait to see what goes on in the welterweight division. We got so many great guys at 170. We got Shavkat Rakhmonov making his way up. Could you imagine a future Khamzat Chimaev Shavkat Rakhmonov fight? That would be so compelling, and I'm super excited. Let me know what you guys think of all this in the comment section. Also, do any of you guys think Burns won the third round and won the second and third round, so that he should have won the fight? Let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, and thank you so much for watching.